This is the Equid E-Commerce Show with your host, Jesse Ness, along with Richard O'Tay.
Happy Friday again, Richie.
Happy Friday. It's that time again.
It is. Yeah. We've been doing a lot of pods lately. We've got to get these live. We've been talking a lot about a lot of different e-commerce stuff. One thing that we mention in a lot of pods, but we never dive in super deep, is how to get going on Amazon, right? So, I don't know. You pumped? You want to sell some stuff on Amazon?
Yeah. I think I'm going to try to learn as much as I possibly can today. I mean, we know a lot about selling on Equid, and why not take advantage of learning to sell on the biggest marketplace on the planet?
It's the big one. You cannot ignore it, particularly if you sell items that are, the lower priced items. You can't advertise that on e-com as well. A lot of times people just start their search on Amazon. So don't forget that if you have an Amazon Prime account yourself, and then you're thinking I don't really want to sell on Amazon, might want to rethink that, I guess. So, anyway, why don't we bring in my Amazon guy, Stephen Pope. Stephen,
hey guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome aboard. Yeah, so I use My Amazon Guy as you actually are the founder of My Amazon Guy, right?
You got it.
All right.
And happy Friday right back at you guys. I think it's a good time to be selling on Amazon these days with everything that's going on. No doubt about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have clients, you sell on Amazon yourself. Is it blowing up as much as the rest of e-commerce is? What's the take?
Absolutely. I would say e-commerce and Amazon are up 50% year over year during what I like to call COVID 1.0, that kind of March into May, June timeframe. A little softer in July, but I think Q4 is going to be 100% up year over year. And I think the reason we know this is because Amazon has signaled, hey, don't send too much stuff into my warehouse. There ain't no more room. So people are going to need to be ready to ship their own items directly to consumers, because FBA is going to be collapsing most likely during Q4.
Okay. Yeah. I saw a notification recently about their little inventory score, or whatever you would call it. They bumped up the numbers to 500, which I didn't meet that level on my own personal store, but
yeah. So one of the side hustle brands I have to kind of test things out, it's called Momster. I sell wine glasses with funny sayings on them, right? So Mr. Right, Mrs. Always Right kind of thing. And my score is 485. So I'm right in it with my clients on this one. And I'm thinking to myself, can I increase my IPI score by 15 points in, I don't know, less than 30 days? And I don't think I can. So I'm going to have storage limits like everybody else. And it's part of the game. You got to sometimes know where the puck's going in Amazon, not where the puck is today, to use a hockey metaphor.
Got it. So yeah, I saw that email. I sort of kind of, ignored it a little bit because I'm not a huge Amazon guy, but taking it from your point of view is okay, guys, one, that's a signal, you might have trouble with storage limits, but also it shows Amazon knows things are going to blow up the Q4, and they just want to make sure it's the best people that are in there that they're storing, right?
I thought this announcement would have hit in September, right? So it's coming super early, which tells me either one of two things. Either they are already overwhelmed, which is probably true, or they actually got their act together and did some forecasting and realized that, wow, every brick and mortar business out there needs to rush to e-com right now. And we just had, 50,000 new accounts open on Seller Central. Somebody's going to be shipping some stuff into our warehouses, and we're not going to be able to manage or deal with that. So it's a good sign that Amazon's very healthy and good, but overrun just because, man, that catalyst called COVID's changed the game. So the way you can manage or deal with this, send all your inventory in that you can, 90-day supply, but also be ready to December 1st ship out of your 3PL or your house if you have to. You're going to have to this year because you're going to stock out. And so are all of your competitors. Raise your prices Black Friday weekend. That is probably the number one tip I'm going to give on today's podcast. Raise your prices Black Friday weekend, because you're going to sell out and stock out by first or second week in December, most likely.
Love that tip, actually, because during this past the COVID 1.0, I actually was in a situation where I started selling a lot of product, and next thing you know, it's disappearing, and I'm happy, but then I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to run out of inventory soon, and so I did raise my prices towards the end of it, just because I could, I guess.
You're price gouging. No,
yeah.
It's Amazon. It had the weirdest thing happen when people raise prices, and they always do, right? This is a decade-long common best practice on Amazon, right? And all of a sudden, they started hitting people for price gouging. It was nuts.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. They actually like suspended listings and all that stuff. A lot of troubles that happened in the April and May timeframe. So to prevent this in the future, raise your prices in 10% increments. That'll prevent it in the future from getting a listing suspended for quote unquote price gouging.
Okay, I get it.
Which by the way, I think capitalism solves, and I don't think there is price gouging. I just think it's supply and demand.
Sure. Well, there was a lot of bad stories, about the whatever. If you're hoarding hand sanitizer and
don't do that, but
yeah,
don't take all the toilet paper. We need that stuff. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
But if you're selling your average day Joe items and you're running low on stock, it's a best practice to raise your prices, because if you don't, then you stock out and then you lose your keyword rankings.
Yep.
That's damaging to your listings. So it's best to not stock out.
Okay. So we people listening here, like, what the heck is stock out, right? Like, so we don't have you're Stephen, you're showing that you know what you're talking about, because you're bringing in some good Amazon terms here that a lot of people might not be familiar with. So we want to pick your brain on, like, hey, there's a lot of Ecwid users out there that they're selling, they're doing fine. They know Amazon's a thing that they should probably be looking into. Like, what would you say is the first step? Like, research, just start selling. Where would you go from somebody that has products that they want to explore Amazon?
So step one, you need products, right? So if you got products, you're ready. If you don't have products, go source them. And there's a lot of different ways you can source product, every from Alibaba to wholesale locally. But I'm going to speak to kind of that next step. So I'm assuming you got product. What do I do next? So launching Amazon does require a little bit of investment, both in time and in money. But if you're just getting started, you need to protect that finance. You don't want to go too deep in investing before it's going to work out, right? So recently, Amazon's required proof that you have permission to sell your own brand. So most people do not have a trademark at this stage. And if you're trying to list on Amazon for the first time without a trademark, without brand registry, you need a trademark to get brand registry with Amazon, then you're going to have a picture of your product that shows your brand name. So these are two things a lot of sellers don't have. They don't have a brand name fixed to their product. They may not even have UPCs, and they haven't filed a trademark. So those are kind of the things you need to be prepared to tackle. If you don't have a trademark, you can get one, file one with the USPTO. My Amazon guide does offer trademarks. I'll give you a link if you want to put it in the show notes. It takes 6 months though. That's the kind of the downer on this. It takes 6 months to get a trademark. Once you've got some of these basics in place and you start to load on Amazon, you've done your product research, you've got the right items, and you're like, hey, I'm gonna launch my items. There's what's called the first 2 weeks, a honeymoon period on Amazon. You want to do whatever it takes to sell as many units as possible in the first 14 days. None of this conservative, let me see what happens and put my listing up and I'll just kind of dinker around with it, right? Don't do that. The honeymoon period is so important that will leapfrog your listing into the Amazon world, gaining rankings that you would not normally have if you just spend a few grand in ads. Now, if that budget's too much, spend whatever you can. 10% of your sales should be spent in PPC, in my opinion. Pay per click, Amazon advertising. And if you do this, you get your listing optimized from head to toe. Send your inventory into FBA, so you've got Prime badge. Get your title, your bullets, your A+ content or enhanced brand content. So you got all these great designs in place. launch your Amazon ads, set up your keywords for your SEO and search engine optimization, and then off to the races. So it's obviously a lot more complicated than I'm trying, making it sound with these basic sound bites. But at the end of the day, you need to do two things as a strategy. Number one, you need to focus on growing your traffic. And number two, you need to convert as many people as you can that get to your listings. And these are two best practices I'm sure you guys talk about all the time because they're not specific to Amazon.
Mm-hmm. That actually brings up a question I'd ask you. Normally, I wouldn't drive business away from my traditional e-commerce store, but listening to what you were just saying, let's just say in a hypothetical, I had a new product I wanted to release and you were thinking about selling on Amazon, that might be a good time. If you already had a list of buyers for your brand, and maybe, I don't know if you do it via email, there's probably different ways you could do it. But if you took your audience that already loves your brand and maybe you say, for limited time only, it's going to be on Amazon, because I'm trying to do a store over there, and you could, since it's on your site or you're communicating via your email, you could say, hey, we're going to still be in business. We're still doing this. We're just going to test out Amazon and we're going to give you X deal or something like that. Is that something that you're referring to as far as like trying to push as much business to Amazon in those first 14 days as possible?
If there ever was a time to utilize external traffic into Amazon, it's in the product launch phase, that honeymoon period or first 14 days. So, I completely understand that people want to own their customers, right? And when you sell on Amazon, you do not own your customers. And so when you sell through your site, you own them. You get their email address, you actually get their address, like physical address, which Amazon took away. I'm on record June of 2019 predicting prophetically, if you will, that I think that Amazon was going to move to an external traffic necessity platform. That prediction came into fruition by the end of 2019. We have seen that Amazon is giving relevancy scores and more traffic and more keyword rankings to listings that bring customers to Amazon. So the nice thing is that COVID caused a whole new population of people who would never have bought online, let alone on Amazon, and forced them to buy online and on Amazon. So this new customer base was great. Amazon's super happy they acquired new customers. All that's great. But you have to bring people to Amazon. You can't just rely upon their platform to serve you. You must now serve them a little bit to get your foot in the door. If you send traffic in that first 14 days, you send a signal to the algorithm that, hey, these guys are legit. They're going to bring people to Amazon. Therefore, I'm going to reward them with additional traffic, additional sales, and get them off the ground. So you leapfrog the rankings by doing this. Instead of just ranking organically for like 3 or 5 keywords, you'll rank for hundreds, if not a couple thousand, if you do the honeymoon period correctly. And last thing I'll mention on this, there's a setting inside of Seller Central where you can go in there and pick your launch date. So before you launch, before your item goes live, have everything ready. Everything from your title, bullets, pictures, design, your store, FBA launched, have it all ready before you go live with your item. If you do this, then your 2-week period will start on that offer release date, and then you'll have a way more successful time.
All right. I really like that. And I hope for people listening, like, all right, this is where you take the notes. Like that 14 days being super important, because in the e-com only world, we might say like, okay, just get the product live. Let Google start to see it. Let Google index it. You don't have to worry so much. Like there's actually a benefit in just launching and let the URL age a little bit. I mean, don't be ridiculous, but there is a benefit in that. It is a fact that in Amazon, that is a horrible strategy. You're going to hurt yourself. Like get those first 14 days. The external traffic, I think we've mentioned this on some other pods, but I think that's very important that like external traffic could be an email offer to your base. Like, hey, I'm launching a new product on Amazon. Here's the link, bring it there. I know you can advertise to Amazon as well, which is extremely painful for somebody that does advertising that I would, pay to advertise to go to Amazon and then pay Amazon 15%. Oh my God. It pains me, but
the margins.
yeah, you're gonna lose some money there, and I know that's just part of the Amazon product launch strategy, or like whatever. It's a launch strategy where it's gonna be some pain those first couple of weeks. So I think that was great to help us learn about that. The steps prior to that, you said trademark takes 6 months. A lot of people have trademarks already. Does that kind of speeds up that process, or
Yeah, so that trademark gets you what's called brand registry. Brand registry is Amazon's way of saying, hey, you're an authentic brand. The government recognizes that you have a mark, intellectual property, if you will. And this is really fundamental because Amazon has thousands of would be scammers trying to sell fake product, ripped off product, hijacked listings, all kinds of garbage. And quite frankly, it's mostly coming out of China. So if you're an Amazon seller and you're frustrated by somebody mucking with your data, it's probably not your direct competition in the state over in the US. It's probably a guy in China. And guess what? They are trying to fight tooth and nail for dinner on the table tonight. They are not fighting for a shirt on their back for tomorrow. And that means they're going to fight dirty, and you have to do whatever it takes. So Amazon's trying to recognize some sort of 80-20 rule to help protect sellers and, quite frankly, buyers. That's their real intent, right? Amazon is a buyer's platform. They don't give a crap about you as a seller, which is why agencies like My Amazon Guy exists, is because we go in there and we care about sellers. We take care of their problems and solve them when Amazon won't solve them for you. Amazon is literally the most siloed organization in the world. The left hand has no idea what the right hand is doing, and so you have to be very protective. By the way, I'm a self-starter. My default marketing philosophy is something is better than nothing. And for you to talk about, hey, just get it up, that's me. That is like me to a core. However, Amazon has entered its maturity phase as a product life cycle. So what this means is the sophistication involved in selling on Amazon is peaking. It's getting harder. And a lot of the unsophisticated sellers are going to get knocked out. You're going to see a bunch of other businesses come in, gobble up the unsophisticated sellers, merge and acquire, bring all the talent in house, and then they're going to expand and dominate the platform. And so you're going to see brokerages going like crazy with buying and selling. And COVID caused a spike in sales for a lot of businesses. But for other businesses, it just completely destroyed their model and their supply chain. And they probably are going to sell and go bankrupt, if not sell. So there's a lot of different things at play right now. And although I'm bouncing all over the place from like basics to Amazon's complicated and you got to be careful. But the long story short, to kind of wrap that up, Amazon has a lot of things happening and the catalysts that are happening, and you have to accelerate with Amazon. You have to play differently on this platform than you ever have in the past, or you will not succeed. And you got to get that trademark and brand registry in place. You have to optimize that content. You got to spend more on ads, and you gotta grind it daily and understand all the technical aspects that go into selling on Amazon.
Yeah, you had quite a few good points there. I'm just going to pick and kind of riff off of one. When you were talking about, so actually it's a combination of two, the brand registry. Part of that, even though they're encouraging that because they have to help people since they're mostly a buyer's platform, it's also encouraging though, because the one thing we can do that Amazon can't do other than be a brand of Amazon is they can't be a brand of that product, right?
Correct.
So, still creating great content and social stuff and having your community engage and hashtagging your brand name and whatever, all the number of things you can do is still super important, because even though they're trying to do brands, I don't want to go down it too deep, but they got data on everything. So if you're not brand heavy and they start to realize in this data that a brand doesn't really matter, voila, now you have an Amazon Basics cable for your new recording studio, or whatever the thing is. It's just like, I think Amazon Basics is going to make Costco's Kirkland look like chicken feet, as far as how many
Absolutely.
products they're going to have.
Absolutely. And honestly, I think Amazon is a brand killer, not a luxury brand killer, but a generic brand name killer. So this is kind of a fun game. So I'm going to pick on Jesse here. So what's the last thing you bought on Amazon? Hopefully it's not dirty socks, but
yeah, actually, I
or
bought
unicorn meat.
similar to your mount for your microphone. I bought a mount for a TV, like a desk mount for a TV.
What was the name of the brand you bought?
I happen to know it was Mounted, but I'm an e-commerce nerd, so I would remember that weird brand name. But yes, it was Mounted.
So when you ask this question to 100 people, generally 3 out of 100 will get it right.
Yeah.
And so you're one of the 3 in this case. Now here's the next question. What was the name of the seller you bought it from?
No idea.
Nobody ever gets that one. And that's because Amazon has made it so they are seen as the seller, even though you are a third-party seller on Amazon. And the brand names, if they're not a luxury brand or a super technical brand, perhaps the Mounted was in the technical category, they've kind of destroyed brand equity, right? So what does this mean? It means a couple of things. Number one, price competition's at an all-time high. You're going to see lower margins. Number two, if you don't have some brand equity, intellectual property that we're talking about on today's call, or some content that talks about your features, or if you don't have a brand position like, hey, you help hungry kids in Africa, or you don't do something special, you are going to be unmemorable. And unmemorable means they're going to buy from the next guy shop. And I think some of this advice is probably pertinent to selling online on your website too, right? But tell your brand story. It's more important to tell your brand story than it ever has been before, because nobody cares about your brand. And you need to make them care about your brand. But you can't just simply force them. You can't use the forceful techniques of old age, right? You got to use power, love, and feeling, right? And here's kind of the weird part of the podcast where we're talking about lovey-dovey feelings, right? But no, I'm serious. Like I'm dead serious. Like you have to use the power of love and feeling behind your product. And if you don't, you're going to be beat from price competing competition sellers.
Yep.
Totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. Does Amazon make it easy for you to do that on Amazon? Like in their videos, are you allowed to do? Because I know, like you mentioned earlier, they don't even give you the customer's email or their address or anything. So what's a way that people could be doing that other than on social or something like that?
Yeah, so you can do a few things. Number one, in the images on your product, you can tell the lifestyle story, right? So I was helping a client that sold hemp cream. Hemp is really big right now, highly competitive though. And so we had Mike Tyson sponsoring this brand. And we were advertising to competitive athletes. And we were saying, hey, after a workout, put on some of this hemp cream. Well, turns out, if you looked at the data, the demographics, which by the way, Amazon does actually share now, they will give you a female male age demographic breakdown in your brand dashboard if you have brand registry, was skewed heavily to women at the age of 45 to 60. So we had to rebrand this item, and instead of chasing sports, we chased older women with arthritis. So what does that mean, and how does that relate to your branding question? It means the picture of a woman in their 45 to 55 range became the focal point of the branding. And you talked about the features that help that woman's arthritis instead of the post-athlete workout, right? You got to listen, understand your demographic, your clientele. Other things you can do, you can send a follow-up email. One of my favorite tools is Feedback Whiz, with an email explaining how to use the product, check in and ask for a review and whatever. But more importantly, add value to the customer and tell them exactly what they can do with your product, and they'll appreciate that. With your website, you can nurture that lead even further, of course, and continue that engagement, whether it's social media, email marketing, or even maybe a physical mailer. So you don't necessarily get the continued touch points on Amazon, but the ones that you get are extremely important.
Oh, that makes sense.
Now, good advice there. And we have actually had Feedback Whiz on a while back. So, definitely once you get those sales and you spent all that time and effort and you spending money on off Amazon traffic, like make sure you're getting feedback, make sure you're getting those follow-ups. So really love that. Now you mentioned all the steps that it takes to launch, like for a novice, what kind of like hours of investment are you talking about? Or, I mean,
All
is
of
that,
them. No, just
yeah, that's what it sounds like. I mean, I'm scared now. I'm like, man, when I went on Amazon, it wasn't that hard, but it sounds like it's gotten a little harder.
Yeah, a decade ago, you could show up and succeed. 5 years ago, you could show up and half-ass it. Today, you have to show up and fight. If you don't have some fight in you, don't do it. If you go on YouTube right now and just type in Amazon tutorial videos, right? Like, I hope I come up first. I've got like 300 of them. But if you see ads on YouTube right now, you're going to see like ninja guys talking about their Mercedes Benz and traveling the world. It's all total malarkey, guys. Like there is no such thing as passive income on Amazon. It's a lie. It's a giant lie. I am grinding my account. I am grinding brute force for my clients every day. And there is a problem that occurs on Amazon every single week on your account. You have to solve problems constantly. If you don't like to solve problems, don't sell on Amazon. It is not the platform for you. If you love to interact and solve problems and fight tooth and nail and also make a buck, it's a great platform. But because the sophistication is going up, because we're entering the maturity cycle of Amazon, you really do have to have some ammunition. And if you don't have the knowledge, you need to hire someone that does. And if you want to gain the knowledge, there's a good piece of news and a bad piece of news. The good piece of news is there's an immense amount of information out there that you can go find. The bad piece of news is you can't tell the good from the bad anymore. For every 10 pieces of information about how to sell on Amazon, 1 is good and 9 are bad. So you need to be very picky about the sources of information you now go after. And you should listen. I'm obviously biased here, but listen to the guys that are telling you it's hard. They're the ones telling the truth. And they're the ones that have done it. And they're the ones that have looked at the profit margins and tried to find that pathway to profitability. And they've had failed projects. For example, I sold hot sauce on Amazon. This was an amazing product, had great reviews. Everybody loved it. And it was a sweet heat. And I hit the competition because there wasn't a sweet heat hot sauce on Amazon. I failed. The logistics completely fell apart. I was sending in my pallet of 1,000 units into Amazon. And one mistake that I made as a supposed Amazon pro, I didn't box my individual units for shipment. I thought, oh, Amazon's smart enough to send my item in a box. They are not. And they do not care about you as a seller. They were shipping my hot sauce, my 4.5-pound hot sauce bottle, and get this, a freaking padded envelope. And as you can guess, what happened next, 80% of my items were damaged on delivery to my consumer. I fought tooth and nail, hours on end, ticketing and calling Amazon, telling them to ship it in a freaking box, and they would not do it. So I'm telling you, the things that you cannot fight the illogical nature of Amazon right now. You have to solve the problem yourself. And in my case, I threw the towel in on this product. But in other cases, it can be solved, and you have to seek out that solution. But the solution is not going to be obvious, and it's not going to be logical most of the time selling on Amazon.
Yeah, no, that's really good stuff. I mean, hopefully people aren't getting discouraged, but yeah, it's hard. This is not like you are swimming with the sharks where, if you're just selling online, making a few sales here and there, nobody's really messing with your site. In Amazon, you're playing with the big boys right off the bat. So you have to have your A game. If somebody asks you a question, you have 24 hours to answer that question. There's a lot of, it's annoying personally. I mean, I get really annoyed that okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. So be ready for it. Now for people that are they've been able to get past this first stage. Maybe they didn't do the best product launch because they didn't know this information, but they're making some sales, doing a little bit of Amazon PPC. What advice would you give to this group of people that just need to need to up level? They've already launched, so like that their honeymoon period's done. What kind of general advice would you give to them?
You bet. So I do apologize if I made it sound too scary. That wasn't my
No,
intent.
no,
I'm being
yeah, no,
authentic though, and I'm being real. And
yeah,
that's me. And I'm going to speak my truth, as Gary Vee would say. But it the other thing I would say is it's never a better time to sell on Amazon, because the amount of traffic and available way to find consumers is at an all-time high. I seriously believe Q4 is going to be 100% up year over year, and it's a great time to do it. But you also have to have your act together. So some of the things you can do: always be advertising. Set your keywords on fire. Like, do tons of keyword research. Use tools like Jungle Scout or Helium 10, and go figure out what your competition's doing, and steal, duplicate their good things, and then improve upon them. Here's a couple of quick hit hacks. So if you're selling on Amazon today and you need your 2-minute action today, here's what it is. Go look at your search term field of your bestseller. Make sure that you have 250 characters of unique text. Have 0 commas in that 250 characters. Very different than your keywords on your website, right? Used to go back in the day and fill that keyword tag in for your meta tags and have commas. Don't do that on Amazon. And make sure you have no duplicate words. So let's say you sell a dog leash or a dog bowl. Well, the word dog should be in your keywords 1 time, even though maybe some of the keywords that have high impressions are big dog bowl or red dog bowl. Your keyword field should be dog bowl red, followed by a series of related keywords, maybe the word dog in Spanish, maybe God instead of dog because everybody is dyslexic and types it in backwards, whatever it might be, right? Make sure that your keyword field is completely optimized. And your quick hit hack today: 250 characters, no puts misspellings, typos, no commas, and maybe a little bit of Spanish. Other things you can do is do the same thing we just described, but in the alt text field of your photos in your A plus content. That is pretty technical. So I will send I will send a video to Jesse and Richard to put it in the show notes on what I'm talking about. But basically, the most unutilized field on Amazon today is the alt text of your photos on Amazon.
okay. Yeah, that is a good one, because I probably would have ignored that. Like it's just a as you're doing your profiles, like it gets tedious. So no, it's a very very good tip. So um, Richie, where else can we take this here?
You know, there's quite a few, and we talked a little before. Like, there's a friend that I specifically am trying to figure out something for him. He's a broker that gets products into stores. But you said something earlier that I'm going to try to tie them together and ask the question on how you think someone could do something like this. Um, so you mentioned that there's um, 10 pieces of information out there and only one of them is good. And so there are people out there that maybe they have a really good knowledge base. They're really, uh, maybe their brand is almost more about what they know than a particular product. So in this particular friend of mine's case, he knows a lot about health and supplementation and all this, and he's a rep for these companies. But that industry is changing a lot too. Like Whole
Very
Foods,
much.
basically, they're not even dealing with brokers or reps anymore. They're like, you got to pay to get on the shelf, and it's like just crazy. So like his whole model's changing, but his knowledge base and what he could do to curate, right? That's how I'm kind of tying these together. He could be that type of person that could pull in and know what that one great piece of content is. So I was trying to think of like what he could possibly do and also still get um, people that are listening, Equid users, that they might have other friends that have products, or they have other SKUs that they could access that are already out there. So if you know something about a particular subject, but you're representing other people, is there a good way or should people, is there a good way to sell that on Amazon, or should they just stick to traditional e-commerce on something like that?
Yeah, so there's several different models that you could do to sell on Amazon, right? So if you're just getting started and you don't even have a website, retail arbitrage is the obvious choice just to get your foot in the pool, so to speak, right? And what do I mean by retail arbitrage? You're buying somebody else's products low and selling high on Amazon. So the second would be buying wholesale and then retailing it, right? So you're going to a reputable wholesaler, you negotiate a price, you buy in bulk, and then you sell retail on Amazon as well as your website. And then the third is to private label and go direct to consumer, possibly manufacture it yourself. And so depending on, and each layer that I went up, it gets more complicated, but so do the margins improve, right? And so depending on what you want to invest in, the more product knowledge you have, the more successful you're going to be, because you're going to be able to articulate your features better. You're going to be able to find better, higher quality products, and you're going to have better sourced relationships to have a better margin. So somebody like your friend Richard, who has the knowledge and the database and the connections, they would do quite well on Amazon. And if they could represent some of those brands as a retailer buying wholesale from them, that would fit into our second model, the wholesale. I almost like to call it reverse wholesale in some instances, because if you're listening to this podcast and you don't have wholesaler relationships, you can go get them just by grinding and talking to brands and saying, "Hey, I see that you sell on Amazon. I could do a better job. Let me buy from you, and I'll fix up your listings. Hey, those bullet points that stink. There's only 3 bullet points, and one of them's got a typo in it. Cool, I can fix that for you. And all I'm asking for in return is that you let me be your exclusive seller on Amazon." So your friend should negotiate exclusive Amazon rights if he can. And that way he can justify his time and investment. So that way other sellers don't show up on those listings selling those same items. Alternatively, he could go to those same wholesalers and say, "Hey, cool, you guys have a cool brand, cool product. I like it. It's high quality, but I want to stick my brand name on it. Let me wholesale it, or let me white label it, excuse me." And that would be another model that would kind of fit in between World 2 and World 3. And if you do that, then you can sell those products on Amazon profitably. In e-commerce, I like to think there's like a mantra of 4 things: sell more products to more people more often for more money. And I steal this from Harry Joyner. He's an e-commerce recruiter. And that mantra makes sense. It can be applied to everything. And if you aren't tackling one of those 4 metrics in any action you're taking today, I think you should retool and refocus on one of those 4 things, because that's what it takes to sell in e-commerce or Amazon.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm just going to give him the link to this episode and let him check it out.
And yeah, we're going to use that quote there from Harry Joyner, who I have run across him in the past too. So, and because there was an extra there. There was 4. Usually there's 3 of those particular ones that Richie has used before. So yeah, let's hear it one more time. Sell more
products to more people more often. And the 4th one that people forget is the more money. So is that the one you guys don't hit?
I think that's the one we haven't really used. Yeah.
And you know what that translates to? Raise your prices.
Yeah.
Higher average value. So yeah, I've been trying to talk Harry into joining the podcast circuit. You guys should have him on.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah. Disneyland's had that one for quite a while too.
They're raising their prices.
They not only do they raise their prices, but somehow or another they're so magic at their branding, no pun intended, that that they're able to get the kids to convince their parents to come back, and well, when you could actually go, and bring friends, and now you get the ears and the hats, and so they're literally getting you, they got it on full tilt. They're getting you to buy overpriced things that are branding their product when you go home. And then they got ESPN and all these other cradle to grave content creation machines too. So
I like the South Park episode where they make Mickey Mouse this evil business capitalist, and he's like, and then South Park comes up and they're like, "Do they own us yet?" And they're like, "Not yet." And so, that summarizes this conversation quite well.
Oh, good. Well, hey, Steven, we know you have an agency. Can you give us a little bit about the agency? What like obviously these are the services you provide. Like what's your ideal client that you like to work with?
You bet. So we're a full service. I've got 2 types of clients: the guys that want to buy a project and just hire us for like a simple A+ content design. We have a la carte services on our website for you. And sometimes you just need to hire us for a quick problem and then go on your merry way. That's cool. We're here for you. Second type of client is somebody who wants us to grow their sales, and they hire us for a monthly consulting fee. We come in and do whatever it takes digitally to operate your Seller Central account, run your PPC, your SEO, catalog, design, all in-house, and we'll take care of it all so you can focus on sourcing product and focus on other things that run your operations and business. So if you want to learn more about My Amazon Guy, just go to myamazonguy.com or simply Google My Amazon Guy plus any Amazon topic. You should find a YouTube video on it. We've got 300 of them on any possible topic. We share our trade secrets openly. We feel like we want to add value to the community, and cool. If you found some value and want to hire us, all the better.
Awesome. That's a good intro. So for people, if you're listening, that was not meant to scare you, right? But if you are scared about Amazon and you're like, go hire Steven. And you can't do everything, right? Like there's SEO, there's PPC, there's web design, there's Amazon as a specialty. There's all these different things, and you can't do them all. So if you're ready, I think that's happy to provide this resource to our listeners. So Richie, any last questions? Anything I should have asked?
No, I think, man, I mean, I could talk to you for hours. I appreciate you being on the show, Steven. It's obvious that you are a Gary V fan, because very similar in the model, totally different people, but very similar in that just keep providing content, transparent, is high quality as you can. And if they can take that and run with it, awesome. If not, we'll help you out, right? He's got huge agencies helping brands too. So yeah, it's another way it shows that he's preaching to, and people are listening.
I'm a listener. I'm building my agency to hold. Recent decision, and it's changed how I've looked at everything. I'm now trying to think, like, how do I get people to stay at my agency for 5, 10, or 15 years? Completely different way of doing business than how do I make a buck today?
Yeah. No, it's great having you on the show, Steven.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Perfect. All right, guys, get out there, make it happen.
Hey, this is Jesse and Rich. We want to let you know we really appreciate you listening.
We hope you find the tips we give you helpful for growing your business.
You can find all of our past episodes and a lot more useful stuff at equid.com/podcast.
And also, check us out on your favorite podcasting platform like Apple Podcast or Stitcher. And make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing.
Be sure to let us know what you think by rating and reviewing so we can serve you better.
So subscribe on your favorite platform.
And come join our community, check out the transcripts, or tell us why you would be a great guest at equid.com/podcast.